Men over 60 boost testosterone naturally, no pills required. Gentlemen, let me ask you something that might sting a little. Have you noticed your energy slipping, your belly growing, or your drive fading, even though you're doing all the right things? Some experts will tell you it's just age, that nothing can be done. Others will push expensive pills and risky therapies. As a physician who has spent decades studying men's health, I can tell you, both of those ideas are wrong. Here's the truth. Low testosterone after 60 is real, but it is not inevitable, and you don't need a prescription bottle to fight it. Science now shows that the right foods, daily habits, and lifestyle choices can raise testosterone naturally, sometimes by 15–20% or more. I've seen men in their 60s and 70s turn back the clock, rebuilding strength, sharpening their minds, even reigniting passion in the bedroom, without relying on drugs. Surprised? You should be. Because the silent killers of testosterone are not what you think, and the solutions are hiding in plain sight, right in your kitchen and daily routine. In this video, we're going to uncover what's draining your testosterone, the nutrients your body is starving for, the one food you should eat every single day, and the lifestyle tweaks that can literally give you your edge back after 60. And the best part, it's natural, safe, and proven. But before we dive in, do me a favor, hit the like button, share this with a friend who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support gives us the fuel to keep bringing you powerful, life-changing health insights. So if you're ready to challenge the idea that aging means weakness, if you want to reclaim your energy, your strength, and yes, your performance, stay with me. Because what you're about to learn could change the way you feel every single day. Testosterone is not just about sex drive. It is the master hormone that fuels a man's strength, energy, metabolism, bone health, and even mental sharpness. Yet starting around age 30, testosterone quietly declines at about 1% each year. That doesn't sound like much until you add it up. By 60, most men have lost between 30 to 50% of the hormone that once gave them vitality. The American Journal of Medicine reports that nearly 40% of men over 60 already live with clinically low testosterone, and by 70, that number climbs to more than half. This decline does not arrive suddenly. It creeps in. First, it looks like fatigue that doesn't go away, then belly fat that refuses to budge, muscles that seem to soften no matter how much you move, nights of restless sleep, cloudy thinking, and yes, a lower sex drive with performance issues that feel discouraging. Many men shrug it off and tell themselves, that's just aging. But as a physician who has studied this for decades, I can assure you, it doesn't have to be that way. Research shows lifestyle has a powerful impact on testosterone. The Massachusetts Male Aging Study found that men who stayed active, ate nutrient-dense foods, and maintained a healthy weight had significantly higher testosterone than sedentary peers of the same age. Another study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism revealed that losing just 10% of body weight increased testosterone by nearly 15%. In plain terms, your daily choices can rewrite your hormonal story. I've seen this firsthand in my clinic. Robert, a 67-year-old patient, came in worn down by fatigue, stubborn belly fat, and fading confidence. His testosterone levels were hovering near the low range. Instead of medication, we focused on food, exercise, and sunlight. He replaced sugary breakfasts with eggs and avocado, lifted light weights twice a week, and spent 15 minutes in the morning sun for vitamin D. 6 months later, his testosterone was up 20%, his waistline was smaller, his energy had returned, and his wife told me with a smile, "Doctor, you gave me my husband back." So let me ask you this. What if your exhaustion, your belly fat, even your restless nights are not just signs of getting older, but signals that your body is running low on its most important hormone? What if, with the right support, your body could still produce what it needs to help you feel strong, sharp, and confident again? The truth is, while testosterone decline is common, it is not inevitable. You still have the ability to fuel your body, protect your hormones, and reclaim the vitality that makes life after 60 worth living. Before we talk about the foods that can raise your testosterone, we need to look at the everyday habits and choices that quietly destroy it. Most men don't realize that the biggest enemies of their hormones aren't rare diseases or genetics. They are the foods on their plate, the drinks in their glass, and the way they sleep at night. Sugar and processed carbohydrates are the first silent killers. Every time you eat them, your insulin spikes. Over time, high insulin doesn't just promote fat storage. It also tells your body to convert testosterone into estrogen. That's right. The very hormone that makes you a man gets transformed into its opposite. One large study published in Clinical Endocrinology showed that men who consumed high amounts of refined carbohydrates had significantly lower testosterone levels compared to those who ate more whole foods. So let me ask you, when you reach for that sweet snack or that healthy, flavored yogurt, is it possible that what you're really feeding is the hormone imbalance you're trying to escape? Then comes alcohol. I know a drink or two might feel harmless, maybe even relaxing. But even moderate drinking places extra stress on your liver, the organ responsible for balancing and processing hormones. A 2018 study in the Journal of Clinical Medicine found that men who consumed alcohol regularly, even at social levels, had 12–20% lower testosterone than non-drinkers. The problem is not just what alcohol does directly, but what it prevents your body from doing, like detoxifying estrogen and supporting healthy hormone balance. Processed meats and bad fats add another layer of damage. Bacon, sausage, fried foods, margarine, all of these raise inflammation throughout your body. Chronic inflammation acts like static on a radio, blocking the clear hormonal signals between your brain and your testicles. If your body can't hear the signal to produce testosterone, it simply won't. Researchers at the Harvard School of Public Health found that men with the highest intake of processed meat had both lower testosterone and poorer sperm quality compared to men who ate more unprocessed, nutrient-dense proteins. So here's a question worth thinking about. Is that convenient deli sandwich really worth the slow erosion of your strength and vitality? And finally, we can't ignore poor sleep and chronic stress. A week of bad sleep can slash testosterone by up to 15%, according to a University of Chicago study. Add stress into the mix and the effect is even worse. When you live in a constant state of tension, your body produces cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol and testosterone cannot thrive together. When one goes up, the other comes crashing down. I've often told my patients, your body cannot be in fight or flight and reproduction mode at the same time. Which do you think it will choose? Let me share a story. Martin, a 64-year-old patient of mine, thought he was doing everything right. He exercised daily and ate what he believed was a healthy, low-fat diet. Yet he was gaining belly fat, losing muscle, and feeling more tired than ever. His testosterone was at rock bottom. When we looked closer, his diet was filled with cereals, diet sodas, and processed, low-fat snacks, foods that spiked his insulin, stressed his liver, and inflamed his body. Once we replaced those with real foods, quality protein, healthy fats, vegetables, and yes, a daily handful of pumpkin seeds, his testosterone climbed by 18% in just 4 months. He didn't take a single pill. His body simply responded once we stopped feeding the silent killers. So I'll leave you with this. If your energy is fading, if your belly keeps growing, if your drive is slipping, could it be that what you're eating, drinking, and how you're sleeping are holding you back? The good news is you're not powerless. Remove the silent killers, and you give your body the chance to bring your testosterone back to life. Your body is like a factory, and testosterone is one of its most important products. But just like any factory, it can't build anything without the right raw materials. If you're running low on these essentials, your hormone production slows, your energy fades, and your strength begins to slip away. Let's talk about the nutrients that matter most. Zinc is at the top of the list. It's the spark plug for testosterone production, and without it, your body simply can't make enough of the hormone. Studies show that men with zinc deficiency can lose as much as 40–50% of their testosterone. In fact, research published in Nutrition demonstrated that men who restricted zinc intake for just 20 weeks saw a dramatic drop in their testosterone levels, while those who took in more zinc showed a clear increase. Foods like pumpkin seeds, oysters, and beef are some of the richest natural sources. So the next time you feel low energy or weak in the gym, you might ask yourself, are you feeding your body enough zinc to keep the engine running? Magnesium is another critical piece. Think of zinc as the spark plug and magnesium as the wiring that carries the current. It helps testosterone bind to its receptors, which means the hormone becomes more effective. A 2011 study in the Biological Trace Element Research Journal found that men who took magnesium for just 4 weeks had higher free testosterone levels, especially when combined with exercise. Dark leafy greens, almonds, and even dark chocolate can help you keep magnesium levels strong. Vitamin D, often called the sunshine vitamin, is really more of a hormone. Men with low vitamin D almost always have lower testosterone. In one large study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, men with sufficient vitamin D had significantly higher testosterone compared to those who were deficient. And here's the catch. Up to 40% of American adults are low in vitamin D, especially older men who spend less time in the sun. Just 15 minutes of sunlight in the morning, or foods like salmon, egg yolks, and fortified dairy, can make a meaningful difference. Isn't it remarkable that something as simple as stepping outside could help restore your vitality? Then we have omega-3 fatty acids, the healthy fats found in fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel. Omega-3s calm inflammation and protect the Leydig cells in your testes, which are responsible for testosterone production. Chronic inflammation is like rust on a machine. It slowly eats away at your ability to function. A study in the Journal of Steroid Biochemistry found that men with higher omega-3 intake had stronger testosterone production and better sperm health. If you're not eating fish at least twice a week, fish oil supplements can also help bridge the gap. Finally, let's not forget protein. High-quality protein is the foundation for muscle repair, and muscle is one of the strongest signals to your body to keep producing testosterone. A review in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that older men who consumed adequate protein had better body composition, stronger muscles, and higher testosterone compared to those who skimped on it. Eggs, lean meats, Greek yogurt, and legumes should be staples in your diet. Without enough protein, your body slips into muscle breakdown, metabolism slows, and testosterone follows the same downward path. So here's the bigger question. Are you giving your body the raw materials it needs to keep building testosterone, or are you starving the factory without even realizing it? Every meal is a chance to either fuel your hormones or drain them. The good news is, it doesn't require exotic supplements or expensive treatments. With the right balance of zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, omega-3s, and protein from everyday foods, you can give your body the tools it needs to keep you strong, sharp, and energized well beyond 60. When men ask me what single food they should add to their daily routine to support testosterone, my answer often surprises them. It's not an exotic herb or a costly supplement. It's pumpkin seeds. A simple handful each day delivers zinc, magnesium, antioxidants, and healthy fats, the exact combination your body craves to keep testosterone production alive and strong. Research has shown that zinc deficiency alone can slash testosterone by nearly 50%, and pumpkin seeds are one of the richest natural sources. Magnesium, also abundant in these seeds, not only boosts free testosterone, but also improves sleep quality, which is another critical factor for hormone health. Isn't it remarkable that something so small can influence energy, strength, and vitality so profoundly? Beyond hormones, pumpkin seeds carry other benefits that matter deeply to men over 60. They are packed with compounds called phytosterols, which research in the Journal of Medicinal Food has linked to better prostate health. Considering that prostate issues are one of the top concerns for aging men, adding this daily ritual is like killing two birds with one stone. Their anti-inflammatory antioxidants also help reduce the silent inflammation that blocks hormone signaling and accelerates aging. One study in the International Journal of Andrology found that men who consumed more dietary antioxidants had better testosterone levels and improved fertility markers, even later in life. So when you think about it, isn't it worth asking yourself whether such a small habit could reshape how you feel each day? Practicality is key. You don't need to overhaul your diet overnight to reap the benefits. Sprinkle roasted pumpkin seeds on a salad, blend them into a smoothie, stir them into yogurt, or keep a small jar in your kitchen for an afternoon snack. I've had patients who simply kept a bag in their car so they could grab a handful instead of reaching for chips or candy. Over time, those small choices build a foundation for higher energy, stronger muscles, and steadier mood. I remember a patient, Gerald, 65 years old, who came to me struggling with low energy and frequent nighttime bathroom trips due to prostate discomfort. His labs showed lower than ideal testosterone. We made several changes to his lifestyle, but one of the simplest was the daily addition of pumpkin seeds. Within months, his energy improved, his testosterone ticked up, and his prostate symptoms eased to the point where he finally slept through the night. His reaction was almost disbelief. "Doctor, I can't believe something so small could make this big of a difference." So here's the real question. In a world full of expensive treatments and complicated routines, why not start with something as simple as a handful of pumpkin seeds each day? They may not be flashy, but they are powerful, natural, and time-tested. Exactly what your body needs to thrive after 60. Food lays the groundwork for strong testosterone, but the truth is your daily habits can either multiply those benefits or cancel them out. One of the most powerful habits is strength training. Lifting weights, or even doing simple bodyweight exercises 2 or 3 times a week can increase testosterone levels by 10 to 20%. A study published in the European Journal of Applied Physiology showed that men over 60 who engaged in resistance training not only boosted testosterone, but also improved muscle mass and bone density. Think about that for a moment. In just a few hours a week, you can trigger your body to release the very hormone that makes you feel stronger, steadier, and more alive. The question is, are you giving your body that signal often enough? Sleep is another essential pillar. Most testosterone is produced during deep sleep, especially in the early morning hours. When sleep is cut short or restless, your testosterone production drops dramatically. Research from the University of Chicago revealed that just 1 week of sleeping only 5 hours per night lowered testosterone levels in healthy young men by as much as 15%. For older men, who may already have borderline levels, the effect can be even more pronounced. Quality sleep is not a luxury. It is a hormone therapy your body provides for free. This means keeping a consistent bedtime, limiting screens before bed, and creating a quiet, cool sleep environment are not small matters. They are part of your testosterone treatment plan. And then there is stress. When you are under constant pressure, your body produces cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol and testosterone work like a seesaw. When one rises, the other falls. Chronic stress keeps you stuck in survival mode, shutting down testosterone production because the body prioritizes short-term safety over long-term vitality. But you can change that. Walking outdoors, practicing meditation, or even 10 minutes of deep breathing can lower cortisol and allow testosterone to recover. A study in psychoneuroendocrinology showed that men who practiced relaxation techniques consistently had higher testosterone than those who remained under chronic stress. I often tell my patients that lifestyle synergy is the secret most men overlook. Eating right will help, but if you ignore exercise, sleep, and stress management, you are leaving results on the table. On the other hand, when you combine good nutrition with these habits, the effects multiply. Imagine fueling your body with the right nutrients, training your muscles to demand more testosterone, sleeping deeply enough to produce it, and calming stress so it can circulate freely. That combination is where transformation happens. So let me ask you, are your daily choices creating an environment where testosterone can thrive, or are they quietly pushing it lower day by day? The good news is that you are not powerless. With a barbell, a good night's rest, and a little time to breathe, you can reclaim the strength, focus, and vitality that every man deserves after 60. The connection between lifestyle and testosterone isn't just theory. It's been proven repeatedly in scientific studies. The Massachusetts Male Aging Study, one of the most extensive investigations of men's health, clearly demonstrated that those who exercised regularly, ate whole foods, and maintained a healthy weight had significantly higher testosterone than sedentary men who relied on processed diets. Another powerful example comes from research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, which showed that losing just 10% of body weight increased testosterone by about 15%. For a man weighing 200 pounds, that's a loss of only 20 pounds, yet the hormonal benefits are remarkable. Doesn't that make you wonder what a modest change in your daily choices might do for you? In my own practice, I've seen these numbers come alive in real people. Richard, a 64-year-old retired firefighter, came to me exhausted, carrying extra weight and losing hope. His testosterone was borderline low, and he feared he would need medication for the rest of his life. Instead, we turned to food. I asked him to make small, consistent changes. Pumpkin seeds every day for zinc and magnesium, fatty fish twice a week for omega-3s, more leafy vegetables for antioxidants, and fewer processed carbs that spike insulin. 6 months later, his testosterone was up 18%. His waistline was down 2 inches, and his wife looked me in the eye and said, "Doctor, I feel like I have my husband back." And Richard isn't the only one. I once worked with James, age 70, who had battled years of poor sleep, weight gain, and declining motivation. His blood work showed both low vitamin D and borderline low testosterone. Instead of writing a prescription, we created a plan. Morning walks in the sun, a Mediterranean-style diet rich in olive oil, nuts, and vegetables, and strength training twice a week. Within a year, James lost 22 pounds, his vitamin D levels normalized, and his testosterone rose by nearly 20%. He told me half-jokingly, "Doc, I feel younger at 70 than I did at 60. Science backs these stories. A review in the Journal of Sports Medicine confirmed that resistance training in older men not only improves muscle strength, but also stimulates testosterone production. Another study in nutrition and metabolism showed that men who replaced processed foods with nutrient-dense whole foods saw significant improvements in both testosterone and overall metabolic health. These are not extreme interventions. They're daily choices that anyone can make. So the question becomes, if studies show clear benefits and real men have proven transformations, what's stopping you from trying the same? The evidence is overwhelming. A handful of pumpkin seeds, a walk in the sun, more whole foods on your plate, and less sugar in your cup. Small steps with the power to restore energy, sharpen focus, and reignite vitality. You don't need to overhaul your life in a day, but you do need to take the first step. So let's bring it all together. Testosterone is the master hormone that fuels strength, energy, focus, and vitality. Yes, it declines with age, but that doesn't mean the decline is permanent or unavoidable. By cutting out silent killers like sugar and alcohol, fueling your body with nutrients such as zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, and omega-3, and by practicing simple habits, eating pumpkin seeds daily, lifting weights, sleeping better, and managing stress, you can reclaim the energy and drive you thought were gone. You don't need risky pills or expensive treatments. What you need is the right fuel, the right habits, and the commitment to give your body what it truly needs. Men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s have seen incredible transformations, and there's no reason you can't be next. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button, share it with a friend who should see this, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss what's coming next. Your support means everything, and it inspires us to keep creating more content to help you live stronger and healthier every single day. Stay sharp, stay healthy, and remember, your best years can still be ahead of you. See you in the next video.